Have you ever dreamed of reshaping the world? Today, that dream calls us to look beyond, to where space has become a cornerstone of defense in the future. Space technology has a profound, though often unseen, impact on our daily lives. This is the scenario in which Indra Space operates, a unique player in Europe with a comprehensive and strategic vision and the technology to connect, observe, and understand the world, to respond to it and protect it better. Low Earth orbit satellite constellations will provide secure and stable communications where none exist today. Navigation systems ensure accurate positioning in strategic environments. And Earth observation satellites allow us to see the invisible and look beyond. To review the changing land, measure climate change and deforestation, providing reliable data to act, preserve, and anticipate. But most importantly, Indra Space is Spanish technology driving Europe's sovereignty and autonomy in space.
Indra Space is Spanish technology.
If you have dreamed of reshaping the world, this is the moment. This is our moment. Tech for the future.
This is our moment.
Indra
Tech
Group.
for the future.
Buenos días, estimados.
Good morning, dear shareholders, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor for me to address you again as Executive Chairman of Indra at this extraordinary General Shareholders Meeting. First of all, and before going into the development of this event, I would like to welcome you on behalf of the Board of Directors and on my own behalf, and thank you for your presence and the trust you place in Indra. The possibility of also attending this extraordinary general meeting electronically has been enabled, as detailed in the announcement of the call. Therefore, I also welcome all the shareholders attending electronically and thank those who, unable to attend, have conferred their proxy or exercised their voting rights by remote means. For Indra, the participation of its shareholders in the general meeting is very important, and it is very gratifying to see the interest you show by participating in this event. I am accompanied at this bureau by the Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Los Mozos, the Secretary of the Board, Ms. Sala, and Vice Chair of the Board and Coordinating Independent Director, Ms. Arce. The rest of the directors and senior managers of the company also attend this meeting. By agreement of the Board of Directors, the Notary Public, Mr. Gerardo von Wichmann Rovira, present here, has been required to draw up a notarial act on this meeting. Therefore, in accordance with the provisions of Article 203.2 of the Spanish Companies Act, it will not be necessary to submit to this board the approval of the minutes at the end of the meeting. Those who know me also know that I have a profound commitment to our shareholders. Today, I appear before you to explain and submit to your vote the business milestones we are achieving. I am an industrialist convinced of the capacity of the industry, of the need to invest in technology, and within that framework, of the capacity of this company and the people who make it up. At Indra, we are promoting a profound transformation that we see reflected, for example, in the group's stock market performance, and the importance of the decisions, alliances, and investments that we are adopting at all levels. This growth is not accidental. It is the direct consequence of an industrial vision and strategy with greater production and technological capacities, of a coherent company model, and of the joint work of this board, the management, and all the professionals of Indra. Precisely, for all these reasons, today we submit for consideration at this extraordinary general shareholders meeting as a first item on the agenda the approval of the acquisition of 89.68% of the share capital of Hispasat SA, an operation that will allow Indra to become one of the European benchmarks in the space sector and increase our presence in international markets. Great projects require great alliances, and we believe that this is one of them. Hispasat provides Indra fundamental strategic advances. This acquisition strengthens our industrial and technological capacity in space, which is not only one of the decisive domains of security and defense, but it is also key to the development of European sovereignty. With this acquisition, Indra enters the small group of European companies with end-to-end capabilities in satellite communications and surveillance. We remain firm in our common goal of turning Indra into a company that directly impacts the local economy and employment while boosting its ability to compete with leading European and global technological and industrial companies. I will not go into more detail because our CEO will expand the operation in greater depth. The world to come is more unstable, more uncertain. We have not chosen it, but we can choose how to deal with it. In this sense, President Zelensky's recent visit to our facilities symbolizes international recognition of the technological and industrial ecosystem that Indra is leading right now. It is a reflection of the value of our products, our innovative capacity, and the strength of a company that is contributing to European industry and security. Item 2 of the agenda is the approval of the re-election of independent directors, Mrs. Amatraen, Mrs. Arce, and Mr. Villazan, and proprietary director, Mr. Moscoso del Prado, all of whom were appointed at the extraordinary general shareholders meeting held on October 28, 2022. The ratification and re-election of independent director Ms. Maria Teresa Busto del Castillo, who was appointed by co-option by agreement of the Board of Directors on September 30th, 2025. And the appointments of two new independent directors, Ms. Mónica Elena Espinosa Caldas and Ms. María Aránzazu Díaz Llado Prado, to fill the vacancies of Ms. Armero and Ms. San Jacinto. I would like to express my appreciation to Mrs. Armero and Mrs. San Jacinto for their valuable contribution. I will give the floor to the Secretary to report on the proposal for the appointment of Mrs. Espinosa that is submitted to this general meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. I inform you that, as disclosed on November 26 by means of other relevant information to the CNMV, the candidate for independent director, Mrs. Mónica Elena Espinosa Caldas, informed the company by letter dated November 24, 2025, of her inability to accept said position. As a result of the above, the composition of the board in the remaining proposals for resolutions contained in the second item of the agenda of this meeting are approved, would be integrated temporarily by 15 members, reducing the percentage of independent directors to 46.66% and the presence of women to 33.33%. Indra wishes to express its commitment to maintain 50% of independent directors and the percentage required by the parity law. Therefore, Indra will immediately initiate the appropriate selection process of a new candidate for independent director to submit her appointment at a new general meeting of shareholders. Thank you, Madam Secretary. In relation to the above, I ratify the company's commitment to good corporate governance and to having a board whose composition and structure comply with the recommendations and principles of the Code of Good Governance of listed companies with the selection and appointment process indicated by the Secretary. Board with an eye to the future, supportive and with clear objectives at a particularly relevant moment for our country and for Europe to place the Indra Group in a leading role in the initiatives of the European Commission in the field of defense and in the promotion of the industry and technology plan for security and defense in Spain. Indra is a company that combines capacity, talent, people, and vision, capable of driving the transformations it requires based on rigorous collaboration, commitment, and effort. Thank you for believing, for accompanying, and for promoting this project as a team. I give the floor to the Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Having constituted the Bureau of the Board with the members mentioned by the Chairman, I now inform you of the following items in relation to this general meeting. The meeting has been duly convened by publishing the mandatory announcement on the company's website and on the CNMV's website on 4 November 2025, as well as in the newspaper El Mundo on 5 November 2025. It is noted that no proposals for alternative agreements have been presented on the matters already included in the agenda, nor have a request for information or clarifications been received from shareholders prior to the holding of the meeting. I also inform you that from the date of the call and until today, the company has made all the information provided for in Article 518 of the Spanish Companies Act uninterruptedly available on its corporate website. The electronic shareholders forum has also been set up on the company's corporate website, which has been accessible to both shareholders and their voluntary associations constituted and registered in the special register set up for this purpose at the National Securities Market Commission. The data on the capital attending the meeting up to the moment are as follows: 107 shareholders present, holders of 50,328,192 shares, representing 28.4896% of the capital. 159 shareholders, represented shareholders, holders of 68 million shareholders, approximately representing 38.4946% of the capitals. Total 266 shareholders, holders of 118 million shares, 330,000, approximately representing 66.98% of the share capital of the company. Of the total numbers of shareholders, I have mentioned 27.14% are shares represented by the boards, any of the members or its secretary. The counting of the last cards and the registration of attendees by telematic means is being finalized. So before starting the vote on the agreements, the final attendance quorum will be read. Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. After hearing the provisional attendance data provided by the Secretary, I declare this general meeting provisionally constituted on second call, and this session begins at this time. I give the floor to the notary, Mr. Gerardo von Wichmann Rovira. Good morning. I must ask whether there are any reservations or objections to the statements concerning the number of concurrent partners or the capital present. I remind shareholders who attend telematically that in the computer application they have a link to transfer to this notary the reservations or objections that they wish to express. If there are no reservations, I give you the floor. Thank you, Mr. Notary. I shall now give the floor to the Secretary to explain the procedure to be followed in relation to shareholder speeches. Thank you, Chairman. If any shareholder present in the meeting wishes to take the floor to request information or clarifications in relation to the items of the agenda or the public information provided to the CNMV since the date of the last general meeting, or to formulate proposals for resolutions on those matters that, as permitted by law, do not need to appear on the agenda, they will need to notify one of the hostesses present in the room who will accompany you to the stand for the speech. Those who wish to do so can do so from this moment. I ask the shareholders who wish to speak to indicate in advance in the documents that have been provided to them the questions they wish to raise in order to speed up the development of the time of the speeches and of the meeting itself. Likewise, if they wish their speech to be recorded verbatim in the minutes, they must deliver it in writing so that the notary can compare it with their intervention. The shareholders who have indicated their intention to speak will do so all in sequence when the chairman opens the time for speeches. To do this, when they are called from the bureau, the shareholders must walk to one of the microphones placed to my left in the room. After all the shareholders' speeches, answers will be given from the bureau or by whoever the chairman indicates. In relation to shareholders who attend electronically, as detailed in the notice of call, they have been able to submit their speech or question through the IT application until the moment when the chairman has provisionally declared the valid constitution of the meeting, indicating, if they wish, their speech to be included in the minutes of the meeting. In accordance with the provisions of the announcement of the call, the speeches sent by the telematic attendees will be answered during the course of the meeting or in writing within 7 days of the holding of the meeting. Thank you, Mrs. Secretary. Right now, we are going to give the floor to the CEO, Mr. José Vicente de los Mozos, who will be talking about the first item of the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, dear shareholders, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor for me to address you today as CEO of this extraordinary general shareholders meeting of Indra Group, with having as its main purpose the approval by the shareholders, the acquisition of 89.68% of the share capital of Hispasat, that will also allow us to have control over Hispasat. On March 2024, when we introduced our strategic plan leading the future, we defined the space sector as one of the 7 critical pillars for growth for the upcoming years. A little over 1 year and a half, the acquisition of Hispasat and the gain of control over Hispasat will be the cornerstone for the creation of Indraspace, and it represents a great progress in our positioning in the defense and aerospace sectors. At this point, I think it is important to recall the factors behind our decision of entering the space sector that can be summarized in the 6 following points. First, secure communications and surveillance are essential to ensure national sovereignty and the protection of personal data. Secondly, the space sector is being consolidated as a strategic domain in the military with a twofold nature, both civil and military, and multi-domain applications. Thirdly, the space market is benefiting from strong tailwinds and a sustained increase in private investment with a long-term growth foreseen, as we will discuss in detail later. Fourthly, the sector is evolving towards an increase in the applications based on space elements, as well as the digital services and European programs such as Iris Square that we will discuss in detail later on. Fifthly, the space market is undergoing a deep technological disruption, pushed by the miniaturization of satellites that is accelerating industrialization and the expansion of low Earth orbit satellite constellations, LEO. Finally, the space sector is complementary to civil and defense activities of Indra Group, such as air traffic management, defense, or mobility. Now, beyond recalling our reasons for pushing the space sector, I would like to highlight again a vision for the business. We want to become a Tier 1 European benchmark, present and leaders of the main European space programs. We want to develop integral capabilities throughout the whole value chain, increasingly focusing on the Middle Earth and Low Earth orbits initiatives. We will offer a twofold proposal, civil and military, in the fields of secure communications by satellite, surveillance, and navigation. Now, I will explain why we are certain that the acquisition of Hispasat and the control over Hisdesat will bring us closer to our vision. Firstly, because this operation will strengthen our integral positioning throughout the whole value chain. Specifically, in the downstream sector, this means operations, Hispasat will reinforce our secure communication services, both in the civil domain, and Hisdesat will provide us with military communications and surveillance services with a military nature, which, added to the current Indra and Deimos capabilities in the upstream side, will allow us to offer space missions from end to end. Secondly, IRIS Square European program, co-led with Eutelsat and CSES within the Space Rise Consortium, will push next-generation satellite operations with the deployment of 290 satellites in the medium, MEO, and low Earth orbits, LEO, between 2026 and 2030. Within this consortium, Hispasat will have two strategic responsibilities that are key and that also represent capabilities that are key to realize Indra's vision looking forward. It will be the main entity in charge of two critical components of the program, the terrain segment and very low Earth orbit, low LEO. And it will also use the satellite constellations LEO and MEO to offer secure communication services in their main geographies around the world. This will consolidate its role as reference operator in the new European space ecosystem. Hisdesat, it is a unique military actor in the field of secure communications and satellite surveillance. It is the only European military operator that has a public-private nature in a sector in which the rest of the actors are state-owned. It has one of the most advanced fleet of military satellites at a global level. That includes satellites SpainSat NG-1 and NG-2 of GEO HTS type, and a satellite of low-orbit radar observation PAZ-1. It also has a global coverage supporting allies and the NATO in intelligence operations and critical missions, reinforcing with this the strategic autonomy and security of Spain and Europe. I would also like to highlight the potential for value creation of this operation that will release significant synergies through operational efficiencies and new income opportunities. I will now detail our perspectives looking forward, both for Hispasat and Hisdesat in Spain and Europe. When it comes to, with regards to Hispasat, the granting of a 12-year concession programs to Space Rise to develop, deploy, and exploit the secure connectivity system through the IRIS Square satellite ensures a relevant position in the European landscape in the next 10 years. When it comes to Hisdesat, in 2025, we have had two major milestones that will have a remarkable impact in the future of the company. On the one hand, the deployment of its new military communication systems by satellite on the military X and Ka bands, SpainSat NG-1 and 2, whose impact on the income is expected to be apparent starting 2026. On the other hand, the granting of the Special Modernization Program for the development, manufacturing, deployment, and operation of the Radar Observation System PAZ2 with a loan already approved by the Ministry of Industry that amounts to €1 billion. Beyond this initial program, Hisdesat is seen as a critical actor for the operation of future space systems connected to the defense, both at national and European level. This will cover a wide spectrum of applications that are key for the security of the continent and its citizenships that will encompass military secure communications to surveillance and early warning systems. I would like to finish by thanking all the teams that have worked in this operation for their efforts and their commitments. And I want to welcome warmly to Indra Group all the professionals from Hispasat and Hisdesat. I am certain that if we mix the capabilities of both groups added to the rest of our team, we will continue pushing the transformation and fulfilling the goals that we have set for ourselves in our strategic plan. Thank you very much.
A continuación.
Now it is the time for the round of speeches in this venue. I give now the floor to the Secretary to give way to the round of speeches of the shareholders. Before starting the time for speeches, I would like to remind the shareholders who are attending this meeting electronically that they have been able to cast their vote on the proposed resolutions included in the agenda from the moment they logged in the application, and that they will be able to do so until the end of the time of speeches in this venue. I remind you that in the event that the shareholder or their representative does not indicate their voting position through the IT application, it will be understood that they vote in favor of the proposals for resolutions formulated by the board of directors in each item of the agenda. In relation to the time for speeches, in order to maintain a smooth functioning of the meeting, we ask the shareholders who wish to speak to be as brief as possible, their interventions lasting no more than 5 minutes. The shareholder, Mr. Manuel Revuelta, has the floor. That can go to the lectern. Before you start, Mr. Revuelta, I would like to remind you of the limitations connected to the duty of participating, and that the content needs to be adjusted in terms of the shape, form, and timing, showing respect to the shareholders here present. Dear shareholders, CEO, and members of the board, I take the floor today because many of the decisions that are being taken from the board, from the management of this company that has a very high technological component, are not seen as pertinent. I know that Mrs. Sala will start trying to limit my participation, but there is CEPI, SAPA leadership, and also with the support of the CNMV, and clearly there is an agreement when the CEPI has appointed chairman, Mr. Ángel Escribano. When it comes to the part of the satellites and Hispasat, Mr. De los Mozos, Hisdesat is vital, but Hispasat is not vital. But we need to make the company bigger because it gives it more value. Mr. and Mrs. shareholders, buying Hispasat is like entering the plane sector, the aerospace sector, buying
Hisdesat es vital, no se discute.
Buying Boeing. And Deimos are wonderful people, but up until they reach the point that you suggest, it would be better for us to be in the European consortium, and we are not there because of the level. And I'm talking from a public interest perspective when it comes to Mrs. Sala. and I insist on this point, the degree of freedom that I may have here to speak. When we talk about this national champion, this is a tale to tell, but it is not the real story. The only thing that you're doing is absorbing all of the money of the ecosystem, impoverishing the rest of the actors, thanks to the government, the CEPI, etc., because the CEPI is leading all this. And you have appointed another person. Nobody understands this. And we claim here for the CEPI taking back the power because it is them who have ensured the power, the history of this company. And it is difficult to understand that with all the history of this company, in 4 years it has received €1 billion in terms of grants. And forgive me, Mr. Ángel Escribano, this is nothing personal against you, but I am interested about the Spanish people, and I am a technology lover, and this is a strategic company in the next decades for this country. And it is the most important thing here is the technology behind everything. You are granted everything, and you are bringing the rest of the sector to the bankruptcy. And you are getting all the cards, so to speak. For instance, the government has given you 2.7 billion for different material, and the government has done no research to grant you this. And finally, what you're going to be doing is you're going to move this from a state asset towards a private thing. And the only thing that you're doing is making this company look bigger. And Mr. Sebastian, and allow me to address you again, mainly because I respect you deeply from an intellectual perspective. Please regain the power over this society that the country has. Do not give it away. And independent board members, try to be unbiased, defend Indra. It is the only companies, the rest of the companies are very small, that has a real technological potential. And this is not only about the physical part, but rather the important thing looking forward, the logic. This is key for governing everything. We are selling a company, and you are playing it out very well. And I request the restitution of the state as leaders and managers of Indra. Thank you very much.
Segunda intervención es para la señora.
Second speech goes to Ms. Alicia Acar.
Buenos días a todos.
Good morning, everyone. Mr. Chairman, Mr. CEO, I will address you directly. As a minimum shareholder, rather than minority shareholder, I want to congratulate you both for your management. I am happy with your investment, and I want to say that I like the direct, straightforward way that you have to explain things. I was very happy about the visit by President Zelensky to these premises. I hope that the war in Ukraine is ended very soon. And I would like you to tell us a bit more about this visit and how this will affect Indra's activity if peace comes about in the end. Thank you very much. The last speech is by Mrs. Sofía Cantos.
Buenos días.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Board members, shareholders, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to ask on behalf of the Hay Derecho Foundation, that is the shareholder taking the floor, if we have 2 independent board members to the board that will reduce the number of independent board members below 50%. Have you considered a re-election of the former board members to restore the independent board members as soon as possible, and that also contributes to reduce the turnover of the board members as part of the board? Thank you very much. Before we move on to the answers, we will be showing a clip. Thank you very much.
Every day, without you even realizing, many stand watch over you long before the sun has risen. They work to protect our freedom, our peace, our way of life, and they do so in a world that shifts with every moment, a world where technology already draws the line between chaos and order, between tragedy and hope. At Indra Group, we lead purpose-driven solutions in the service of all, our armed forces, our citizens, and you. We are at the forefront of the programs that are reshaping the defense and security industry. We are also one of the world's leading radar manufacturers and a strategic supplier to NATO, as well as leader of Europe's largest cyber defense initiative. Our anti-drone systems have secured the skies over major international summits. And each year, more than 7,000 pilots develop their skills in our simulators. Next-generation land systems, command and control, electronic warfare, avionics, naval systems, border control surveillance, space solutions, all of it cutting-edge Spanish technology in service of Europe's autonomy and sovereignty, and playing a crucial role in conflict zones, humanitarian missions, natural disasters, and in places where few are willing to go, so that all of us may remain safe. Because at the heart of every advance lies a commitment to life, and in the future, extraordinary things worth living for. Tech for the future. Indra Group.
Empieza el turno de respuesta.
We will now move on to the answers to the interventions of the shareholders. With regard to Mr. Revuelta, once again, his opinion is clear with regard to Indra, and according to the objective data that we have, it seems that he does not agree with the vote that appointed the executive chairman of this company, more than 90%, and it seems that it doesn't agree with the assessment by the market of the activity of Indra. So once again, we thank him for his opinion and we note it duly. Thank you. I will now respond to Ms. Alicia Acar to try to respond to your question. I firmly believe that hoping that the peace will be signed soon in Ukraine, this cycle of investment that has been launched by the European Union and the development of the defense industry that has been announced by the European authorities, close to 800 billion euros, will provide employment, qualified employment, in the sector of defense. During next year's, approximately 8 to 10, we will have a clear boost to these capabilities with excellent performance. The need to reinforce the deterring is firm in Europe, and Indra is positioned to be able to participate in the reconstruction of the country and this new scenario of reindustrialization of the sector. Thank you for your question. Regarding the last question by Mrs. Cantos, Fundación Hay Derecho, thank you for the question. As the chairman explained and myself at the beginning, we have the commitment to achieve 50% of independent board members and 50% of female members following the corporate governance that we have set. According to the law, it is the Commission of Retributions and Good Governance that will have to carry out this selection together with the counseling of an independent expert. Will be able to propose this female independent member, and this proposal will be presented to the board so that the board can give its opinion and then convene the corresponding shareholders meeting with all the shareholders to be able to appoint this new female independent member. So the appointment of this new candidate will follow the good governance process and the current law. Thank you. Thank you very much. Secretary, at the end of the round of speeches, I remind the shareholders who attend telematically that the deadline for casting their vote on the proposed resolutions included in the agenda through the telematic application is over. I give the floor to the Secretary once again. I inform you that the counting of the cards and attendees electronically has already been completed and that the final quorum of attendance of capital attending to the meeting is as follows. 110 shareholders present, holders of 50,328,677 shares, representing 28.4899% of the share capital. 159 represented shareholders present, holders of approximately 68 million shares, representing 38.49% of the share capital. In total, present and represented shareholders, 269, holders of 118,331,378 shares that represent 66.98% of the share capital of the company. Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. At this time, the list of attendees is closed in the terms informed, and I ratify the valid constitution at second call of this extraordinary general shareholders meeting, which may deliberate and adopt resolutions on all the items included in the agenda. I give the floor to the notary. I ask again whether there are any reservations or objections to the statements relating to the number of concurrent partners or the capital present. I remind shareholders who attend electronically that in the application they have a link to transfer to this notary the reservations or objections they wish to express. If there no reservations. Thank you very much, Mr. Notary. I give the floor to the Secretary to report on the voting procedure. Thank you. I would like to inform shareholders that in accordance with the procedure for the delegation of proxies approved by the Board of Directors and detailed in the announcement of the call of the general meeting, those proxy votes that have been received without indication or the name of the proxy have been conferred generically in favor of the Board of Directors, have been deemed to have been granted in favor of the Secretary of the meeting, who is the Secretary of the Board. Likewise, in the event that the shareholders or their representatives have not indicated their voting position with respect to the proposed resolutions included in the agenda, it has been understood that they voted in favor of those formulated by the Board of Directors. As mentioned in the announcement of the call, for the purposes of the provisions of Article 523 and 526 of the Spanish Companies Act, it is hereby stated that if the representative is a director of the company, they may find themselves in a situation of conflict of interest in relation to the second point if the ratification, re-election, or appointment is submitted to the meeting under that item, as well as with regards to matters that, although not appearing on the agenda of the meeting, that may be put to a vote at the meeting as permitted by law. Both in the cases of delegation in favor of the Secretary of the meeting and in favor of a member of the Board of Directors, the rules established in the announcement of the call of the meeting shall apply, including the cases in which the delegation extends to proposals for resolutions other than those formulated by the Board of Directors or to matters not included in the agenda. As required, the result of the votes will be recorded in the minutes of the meeting and will be published on the company's website in the manner and within the period established for this purpose in Article 525 of the Capital Companies Act. However, if any shareholders wish to know the specific result, may request, and if they have not cast their vote and wish to vote against and abstain, please approach the voting table now and cast their vote. Otherwise, they shall be deemed to be voting in favor of the proposals made by the board. It is stated that there has been no request to vote on resolutions other than those included in the agenda of the call. We shall therefore proceed to the vote on the proposed resolutions on the agenda. In order not to excessively prolong the duration of the meeting, and given that the full text of the resolutions that are put to the vote has been available to the shareholders from the very moment of the call, I will summarize the content of the resolutions that are submitted for approval by the meeting. On the first item on the agenda, the general meeting is got to vote on the acquisition of 89.68% of the share capital of Hispasat. On the second item on the agenda, the proposals for ratification, re-election and appointment of the directors who will be indicated in the respective votes. The third item on the agenda proposes to empower the chairman, the vice chairperson, the secretary, and the deputy secretary of the governing body to formalize, register, and execute the resolutions adopted by the general meeting. Finally, on the fourth item on the agenda, the general meeting is informed of the modifications approved by the board of directors and introduced by the regulations of the board of directors since the last ordinary general meeting. Having read the content of the proposed resolutions in a summarized manner, after the end of the voting and the counting of the votes cast, in accordance with the information received by this Bureau, we can inform you that each and every one of the proposals for agreements that make up the agenda have been approved, with the exception of point 4, which is merely informative. The individual details of the votes will be published on the company's corporate website after the end of this general meeting. With regard to the second item on the agenda on the ratification, re-election and appointment of directors whose proposed resolutions have been voted on individually and separately, each in accordance with the provisions of Article of the Capital Companies Act, we are now recording the acceptance of re-elected and appointed directors, with the exception of Mrs. Espinosa Caldas, for the reasons indicated at the beginning of this general meeting, who, in her letter dated November 24, 2025, unexpectedly expressed her non-acceptance of the position. Re-election of Mrs. María Belén Amatrein Corbi as an independent director. Mrs. Amatrein, who is attending this meeting telematically. Do you accept this position? She accepts. Yes, I accept re-election of Mrs. Virginia Arce Peralta with the status of independent director. Mrs. Arce, do you accept the position for which you have been re-elected and declare that you have not involved in any of the causes of incompatibility provided for the legislation in force for the performance of the position of director? Yes, I accept. Thank you. Re-election of Mr. Bernardo José Villazán Gil as an independent director. Mr. Villazán, do you accept the position for which you have been re-elected and declare that you are not involved in any of the causes of incompatibility provided for in the legislation in force for the performance of the office of director? Yes, I do. Ratification and re-election of Mrs. María Teresa Busto del Castillo with the status of independent director. Mrs. Busto, do you accept the position for which you have been ratified and re-elected and declare that you have not been involved in any of the causes of incompatibility provided for in the legislation in force for the performance of the position of director? Yes, I accept. Appointment of Mrs. María Aránzazu Díaz Lladó Prado as an independent director. Mrs. Díaz Lladó, do you accept the position to which you have been appointed and declare that you are not involved in any of the causes of incompatibility provided for in the legislation in force for the performance of the position of director? Yes, I accept. Thank you. Re-election of Mr. Juan Moscoso del Prado Hernández with the status of proprietary director on behalf of Sociedad Estatal de Participaciones Industriales. Mr. Moscoso del Prado, do you accept your re-election as a director and declare that you are not involved in any of the causes of incompatibility provided for in the legislation in force for the performance of the position of director? Yes, I accept. Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. In view of the result of the votes that have just been cast, all the resolutions submitted to this meeting are declared approved, and the meeting is formally adjourned. Thank you, everybody, once again, for your participation and your trust.